Today, in preparation for your performance task, we are going to have a discussion about different ways news is distributed. To start, take 3 minutes to answer the question written on the board. If a major news event happened in the world, how would you access the news? For example, would you read a newspaper or would you get the news from the internet? Go ahead and write your answers down and your reasons why you would choose that way to access the news. I'll give you 3 minutes. Okay, let's talk about your answers. So, what kinds of things did you come up with? How would you access news? Give me one example. Where? Kylie?
The internet.
The internet, all right. Left in, we'll do this over here. We'll make a list on this side. What specifically on the internet would you use?
Google.
So through Google? Okay, through like a website. Okay. Anyone else? How would you access information?
I would use the internet too, but get it from like accurate news sources.
So using like maybe a news website. Okay. Okay. What other ideas do you have of how you would access news?
News channel.
The news channels like on television?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll put that one over on this side. All right. Any other ideas?
Newspaper.
The newspaper. There are other types of websites where you sometimes can find out information, and I have a feeling that as high school students you spend a lot of time on those kinds of websites. Where might you hear about things?
Social media.
Social media, like what kind of sites?
Twitter.
Twitter.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Instagram.
Hold on, too many.
Snapchat. Because the news thing. Oh, okay.
Instagram.
MySpace.
MySpace. I'm gonna leave MySpace off of there. As odd as it may be, even places like Pinterest, you can find things. Pinterest. Does anyone use Vine?
I have one.
Yeah, Vine is a possibility as well. So all social media type things. Can you think of any other type of more kind of traditional or more kind of like old type of news source?
Magazine.
Magazines. And one that we don't listen to as often, but your grandparents might have?
Radio.
The radio, right. Yeah, there you go. So there's different types of news out there and ways to access that. The news sources listed on the board, these two lists, they can be divided into two categories, which is why I separated them into those two lists. What would you call those categories? If you could name them, what do you think you would name them? Don't worry about being right or wrong. What is your idea of how you would word it?
Are you trying to name each one of them?
Each category. What would you call these ones as opposed to the ones over on the right?
Old and new.
Old and new. That's a very popular kind of idea. This is kind of the old, or we might call it traditional. Over here, we have more of our new or non-traditional news sources. There we go. Media is our main means of communication. Television, radio, newspapers, and internet are all types of media. Traditional news sources are print media, such as newspapers, broadcast media, like your television, your radio, and then non-traditional or digital news sources are things like social media and internet sources. Social media are the websites and applications used for social networking, which I think most of you are pretty familiar with. It's used, dedicated, those websites are dedicated and applications to communicate informally with other users. So you find people with similar interests. Sometimes people refer to traditional news sources as old, as he said, or mainstream, sometimes they used to describe it. And then the non-traditional news sources as new media. So you see kind of a difference between the two. So looking at these two lists and thinking about this, I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to talk to the people around you. And I want you to think about what are some of the key similarities and differences between our old or traditional media and our new or non-traditional media. And I'm going to ask you to share a couple of your ideas. So find someone ready to talk to, and I'll give you about 3 minutes. Again, what are the differences between those two lists?
Well, I think all the similarities between internet-based,
The old and the new will be like television and the all of the new is like it's too fast. Yeah, it doesn't take forever like a newspaper.
the differences are that like the old are coming straight from the source, and the new are like coming from people that you know. So yeah.
Let's see. The differences are like nobody wants to know.
It's usually like commotion, like interested in going on. Yeah.
Hear the radio for the news. Magazines.
Yeah. Usually you'd see like there's someone like talking directly to you with the old. Does that make sense? Like there's someone talking.
Oh yeah.
Reading the news, and then I guess newspaper, but over here it's like you're reading it.
You're reading
Okay. Sounds like you guys have come up with a few ideas. So what is one of the differences that you see between these two types of media?
With the old, it's coming like straight from sources, like actual sources, and with the new, it's coming from like your friends or your family.
Okay. Usually when you're looking at something on Facebook or Twitter, it's probably not a television news station or a reporter. It's me saying, hey, did you guys hear about this? And yeah. So it's reported by what we call just, like individuals rather than our reporters or photojournalists or reporters. So, okay. Do you see any other differences between the two?
There's a lot more ways in the new category than there is in the old.
Do you think information is easier to access now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find out things very, very easily. Old or traditional is a little bit more difficult to access. If you didn't get the morning newspaper, then you kind of missed your chance, unless you're going to run down to the grocery store and buy one. So, yeah. Okay. Do you see any similarities between the two? Do they both provide news?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're both ways of finding out what's going on. Do you think one is more reliable than the other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to know your sources. Obviously, things that are going to be on television, newspaper, magazine, radio are a little more reliable than what your best friend tweets. Yeah, it's probably not how you want to get all of your news. But they're all valid ways of receiving information and of getting news. So they're all out there. So I wanted to address a few of these things in particular, and they are, we want to underline Facebook. You guys mentioned that one. You mentioned Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and Vine. Okay. So the ones that I chose to underline under our new or non-traditional media, all of the words I just underlined, they're types of social media. Social media are websites and applications used for social networking. How might those social media websites, though, be used to share news stories? Have you ever seen any news story shared on any of those websites? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to have you talk to your neighbors one more time and tell me how you might use one of those websites to share information or to share a news story. Okay? I'll give you again a couple of minutes to talk to your neighbor.
Yeah. And then post on your Facebook and you share to all your friends.
It's the same on Twitter though, right? Like our school has like a website that gives notice.
Share on Pinterest or tweet it.
Got that one. Instagram, I guess.
I know.
Pictures of what's happening.
Video.
Yeah.
Live video. I don't know.
Fine. Same thing, yeah.
I think it's usually shared.
Pinterest, I don't know how you could share news on that one, but
You can make it.
so what did you guys say? A pin all about news?
Mind your business.
I mean, like to get the word out about different ways to do your hair and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, here's where you have to remember I'm a lot older than you, so you are going to have to teach me some of this. So give me an example of how you could share something using Facebook.
You just said it. You share it.
You click on share. How would you share a news site? Is it on Facebook itself or is it somewhere else?
A lot of news sites have their own Facebook page, so you can just share what they said directly from them.
Okay, so you can share from their Facebook page. Have you ever been on a website that was outside of Facebook and saw the ability to share that website through Facebook?
Yeah.
So you have the way to share those and you can post them to your timeline or whatever it might be that way. Now, I do use Facebook. I don't really use the rest of these. So tell me about Twitter. How would I share news on Twitter?
Just retweet.
Retweet?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see something on there and then you retweet it because you're sharing it to let other people know about it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about on Instagram?
You could like take pictures of the event that's
And hashtag
happening.
it.
And
That's true. And that's what we call someone who's like a citizen reporter who's there seeing something happen and then they're sharing that information to let people know. They aren't necessarily trained in journalism, but oftentimes if they're seeing something happen, they operate under the same kind of guidelines as a journalist where they're going to try and report accurately on what's happening, but we consider them a citizen journalist in that case. So they could take pictures, they could share it through Instagram to let people know what's going on. What about through Vine? I honestly have no idea how Vine works. Does anyone tell me how Vine works?
post videos.
Post video. Okay, so it's like
Usually it's
like
funny
Instagram is with pictures, video is Vine.
They're usually funny videos, so
Yeah.
I don't really know why you'd share a lot of news stuff on there.
Okay, so you could share a video of a news story, but usually you see Vine used for more personal stuff.
Mhm.
All right, what about with Pinterest? I usually see crafting projects. I don't have Pinterest, but like my mother-in-law takes all sorts of recipes from Pinterest all the time, tries them out. So do you think some of these might be more helpful for sharing news stories than others?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's true of just about any type of news source that's out there. The one thing that we didn't mention, I want to make sure that you do think about this, is we have blogs. What is a blog? Who can write a blog? Anybody. What do you usually include in a blog? Are you
it your
reporting on something?
Personal opinion.
A lot of times it's personal opinion. So anyone can publish a blog, anyone can write something. I'll even read you the definition here. Blogs are personal websites or web pages on which an individual records opinions on a regular basis. Blogs and personal websites on the internet are referred to collectively as the blogosphere. Blogs and social media are often used by those citizen reporters we talked about to share news stories. So we talked about a citizen reporter is someone who is following the guidelines of journalism even though they aren't actually trained as a journalist. All right. Any questions at this point? Okay. So you'll learn more about the different ways news is distributed in the performance task that you'll complete, and you're now ready to complete your performance task. Good luck.